Are you average? That is the question. And the answer to it is probably so. That might be a hard truth to swallow. However, it is the case. Since our teenage years, most of us, we spent a lot of time trying to fit in and be and do what everyone else was doing. We were following the music trends. We were following the latest dances, clothing styles, even the slang and the way that we talked. And we even followed the behavioral patterns that seemed like the in thing to do. And so we all know that it's a cliche that's used so often these days that if you do what everybody else does, you're going to get what everybody else gets. And so the question is, are you willing to accept average? And when I say you're average, I'm not just saying you, I'm really speaking out loud and thinking out loud. I just been going through some things in my personal life that made me come to the realization that no matter what mantras that you speak, no matter what other people say to you, even when people are looking to encourage you, the bottom line is the bottom line, that you have to show and you have to prove. One of my mentors, Dr. Lee Jones, he's passed on. He was an associate dean of education at Florida State University. And he had a saying that he used to say to us and his mentees all the time, which was that results are all that matters and everything else is rhetoric. And so we live in a time when it comes to social media and memes, and we say, I know my worth and I'm worth it and I'm this and I'm that. All those things are nice as starters because they ignite some level of faith in somebody to say that, hey, I'm better than this. I deserve more than this. However, that's in words only. You don't really deserve it until you've earned it. We have to do the work to be able to say that, yes, because I have put in this much work, I should be receiving a certain harvest or a certain result. And so if you are willing to accept average, then the rest of this video is not going to be for you. However, if you were unwilling, like myself, to deal with, accept average for not even one day longer, then you want to stick around. And so I was driving yesterday, Labor Day, and I was stuck in traffic right on the 15 freeway here in Las Vegas. LSU was playing USC, and so there was a lot of traffic around the stadium. And so while I'm stuck in this traffic, I can just see cars just as far as the eye can see. You're just stuck. There's nowhere to go. It's bumper to bumper. We've all been there. But as I'm looking at these thousands of cars, the only thing that came to mind is that, hey, if there is, let's just say 10,000 cars out here, and let's say there's 2 people in each car, that's 20,000 people. Carl, me, if you were going to rank yourself among these 20,000 people, where do you fit? Where would you rank yourself? And so let's say that the criteria for this ranking has to be physical fitness, financial fitness, your mental acuity, emotional intelligence. We're going to sit spiritual fitness to the side for now, but just if we use those basic metrics, and you can choose whatever you want for as far as how you want to rank yourself. But if you use those metrics, Carl, where do you rank yourself? And so let's say, okay, we'll say scale of 1 to 10 for each one of those categories. We add it up, come up with an average, and then we say that the average for 20,000 people is X. And I said, Carl, so where do you put yourself? I could only comfortably say 65%, 55%, somewhere in there, 55 to 65%. And as I stepped back from that thought, it was humbling because I looked at myself or thought that I would be further at this point in my life than I am. I'm not doing bad by most people's standards, but by my standard, I'm not where I should be. And so it was a humbling thought to think that I could only comfortably say 55 to 65 percentile is where I would be. And so, you know, the hope, the desire is to be able to say that I'm in the 95 percentile, the 99 percentile. And I want to be able to say that without hesitation. And hopefully you do too, because If you hesitate when you ask that question of where do I rank amongst my society and amongst my peers, and if I'm only coming up with quote unquote average scores, then I have to begin to judge myself by who I actually am, what I was born to do, what I was called to do, the things that were said to me in the past about my potential and what I could become. You remember growing up, so you could be anything if you put your mind to it. United Negro College Fund used to say that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, we have the mind, but what about the effort? You notice how fast time seems to be going by? I just celebrated my 48th birthday, and I can tell you, time is not waiting for anybody. We talk about time management, but whether we live or die, time continues. And so it's really about life management. What are you doing with the allotted amount of seconds and minutes that we have in a day? How many of those seconds or minutes are going towards creating the legacy and creating the life that you know you want to live? I know there's things that upset me or that get on my nerves that really are the result of me not doing the things that I should have done in the past to position myself for where I believe I should be right now. And so we come up with ways to rationalize our position. We come up with a lot of excuses. These days, it's 2024. We're in the month of September. We're really close to the presidential election. And so how much have we put on politics, on Democrats, Republicans, and how foolish to believe that one of these people are going to change your stead in life. I've been voting since the Al Gore and George Bush election. Since that election, some have, of the people I voted for, won, some have lost. But you know what hasn't changed? Me. None of their policies affected me in a way that it could have stopped me from being where I believe I should be right now. I don't care what you say. The same goes for you too. The question is, have you put too much stock in politics and parties and not enough stock in your own ability? We got to leave average behind. We got to get past average. I know I'm asking if you will come with me, because we have not only these ways to rationalize and these convenient mental coping mechanisms that allow us to continue in that state. And after all, there are so many that have it worse than us. We'll say things like that. But have we ever considered the other side of that? That there's so many who have it better than us, and obviously, see, people are going to come at me with, well, there is inequality, there's inequity, there is racism, there is sexism, there are people who were born rich and born with so much and born with a head start. Granted, those things are true. Now let's take that and sit that to the side. Now that that's to the side, ask yourself, are you exercising your greatest, highest potential on a day-to-day basis? Scale of 1 to 10. Type it in the comments. You let me know if you want to be honest. I think if we be honest, that the truth is that answer, once again, is about a 5 or a 6. It's average. I know that's been the case for me. What about for you? And the question is, are you going to settle for average? Because when it comes to this concept, or this thing that I'm talking about here right now, if we dig into it a little bit and if we just shoot straight, we know that there is more in us, right? We know that there is more than we could do. We have to ask ourselves that if we think about the facts that there are people who are doing better than us in some areas and they might be balling, right? And some of them have certain gifts. A lot of times we think about athletes and entertainers. They have certain physical gifts, or they might have a gift or some talent, but you do too. But the question is, how are you polishing? How are you curating? How are you strategizing to deliver and deploy your gift to the marketplace and to society, to the community, and to your family? Or have you just said, I don't feel like it. I'll do it tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. And once again, I'm just celebrating my 48th birthday. There's potentially less birthdays ahead of me than there are behind me. The days that they count. Some of you that are younger than me, if you want to have what you believe you should have, you're going to have to leave average behind. Because when we think about our gifts, when we ask ourselves, am I utilizing my gift? And am I doing it with a good faith effort? And when I say good faith effort, do I prize it? Do I care about the fact that I have it? Do I honor it? Also, do I do this with enthusiasm and consistency? And the answer to that many times for all of us can be no. And that is what makes us average, because that's what everybody else is doing, is they're sitting on their gifts. And, when I think about what everybody else is doing, I came across a quote the other day, and it was by the owner of school.com. His name is Alex Hermosi. Great guy, great lessons, great teaching. Let me share with you what Alex said. Alex said this. He says, let me find it. Give me a second, guys. Where did it go? There we go. So let me share with you what Alex said. Alex says it this way. If you just did all the shit you already know you should be doing but aren't, you'd be 10 times further than you are right now. Sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. Less information, more implementation. He goes on to say in the comments that the thing that separates the men from the boys is the boys will do what's convenient, where the men will do what's required. The question is, when it comes to having, being, doing the things that we think that we should be, do, and have, will you do what's required? Will you do what's required? And based on that quote right there, I'm going to be building a business, or at least the principles that are contained in that quote, because my job as a results coach, right? My job is just to help people to be able to clarify their goal or their vision, and then develop a strategy or a roadmap to be able to get there, and then to coach you on the non-negotiable habits that you're going to have to maintain consistently until the goal is achieved, manifested, actualized, or until you are actually rolling in it. For the last 20 years, 25 years now, I've been in organizational development, leadership development, teaching, coaching managers in the public sector as well as a nonprofit on how to lead their teams for more productivity to get more success, so that we're better curators of the public trust, or could be trusted with the public's trust, the public treasury, if you will. However, when I look at it at an individual level, when it comes to you and me individually, sometimes we have not been the best curators or the best caretakers of our own gifts, of our own potential. We've been average. We were told, get a good job, get a good education, and then boom, just do that. But what happens when you're no longer challenged and you know there's so much more inside of you? Then what? Then do you keep relying on seeing what the society is saying and trying to find a new trend or whatever society's new level is, and then to ascend to that? Or will you recognize what you really are? Something and someone who has never been here before, and when you leave, there will never be another you. Whatever the gift is that you have, we're waiting on it. I can tell you right now, the gift that I have, there's a lot of people waiting on it. And a good question is, what has stopped me from deploying it until now? Let's get there. Because when we think about what we need to do in order to leave average, it's number one to decide to leave average behind and to stop holding on to it because there's nothing there. It's kind of like a child who's been licking the spoon when their mom was baking a cake and they had that spoon with the icing and they gave it to you and you're licking the spoon. But even when all the icing on the spoon is gone, you're still licking the spoon. It's still in your mouth. And your mom has to give me that, boy. There's nothing left on that spoon. But that's the way we treat average. We keep holding on to it, looking for the excitement that was there when we first got there. That novelty is gone. We've been an average long enough. It's time to leave average. It's not going to be more icing that's going to magically appear. Meaning that in average and living averagely, there's never going to be that same high that we had when we first got to be independent and we got to be adults. You first got your first paycheck, you bought your first house, bought your first car, all those things. Nice. But then there's what's called hedonic adaptation. You've adapted to that. And the reason why the goalposts always move, the reason why we're never satisfied is because we're so much more. We can do more. I told you many times, I'm a Christian. I'm a son of God. Daddy, God, I'm like you. And he's saying, then be like me. Create. What else do? We got to leave average. There's an Asian quote somewhere, I believe China, one of the philosophers there said that the journey of 10,000 miles, it begins with taking the first step. And so here are a couple of action items just to implement immediately to prime you for taking this first step. Number one, stop complaining. Okay? Complaining about what? Complaining about everything. Stop complaining about people in terms of what they did wrong, or the right things that they failed to do. Right? I know people who get so wrapped around the axle about other people's failures. However, we have to pull the beam out of our own eyes first. We've already established that we're mostly living average anyhow, right? Which means there's so many places in which we've come short. The first thing, stop complaining. Right? Marcus Aurelius, who was the probably one of the most famous Roman emperors or generals and emperor, he was what was called a Stoic. It was a class of people who lived by a certain code, which was to never get too high or to get too low. If you remember Star Trek with Dr. Spock, he was a Stoic. That was why he never really showed a lot of emotion. But what Marcus Aurelius said was this. He said, you never, ever want to be overheard complaining, not even by yourself. Oh, because the amount of times that I hear me complain causes me to go down that rabbit hole to try to investigate why they did what they did or why this circumstance is as such. When the answer is, and there's only one way to change it. If we're waiting on the people who did us wrong to come back and fix it, we'll be waiting a long time. But I believe, that I have the education, the creativity, the energy, the sagacity and the spirit to change my stead in life. And I believe that you do too. Stop complaining is the first thing that we could do. The second thing that we could do is to remember, recall, and recollect, meaning that remember, like when you were a kid, it might have been your parents who said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or when you got to school, they asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And regardless of what the answer is, but you remember just how real it was to you when you thought about being that policeman, fireman, professional athlete, whatever it was. It was real right then. So much so that at the family gatherings, your parents or family members could have you come and sing and dance and act or whatever that thing was, and you would do it with all your little heart. You know why? Because you felt and believed that this can happen. This is what I am. You had the kind of faith. The Bible talks about the childlike faith, the amazement of the vision. And that is what we have to bring back, because we're going to need that every day to begin making as part of our day speaking, visualizing, and imagining us living with the accomplished goal. I mean, we have to see it, touch it, matter of fact, play in it in our mind on a day-to-day basis. We allow ourselves today, Gary Vee said it this way. He said that the currency of today is attention, and everybody's fighting for it. And the thing is that people and organizations are being paid a lot of money for your attention. The more views, likes, the more eyeballs we can get on a thing means that we can charge more for it. Your attention is literally worth millions of dollars. But what is it worth to you? Move our attention from the television show. Move your attention from the things that are happening in other people's lives. Move your attention to your goal. Move your attention to what needs to crack in your life. I promise you, I got a new TV now. The old TV went out. There was about 2-3 weeks that I had no TV. Those might have been some of the most productive days of my life, but I've been so used to having a TV my whole life, it felt like, well, something should be here. And then I had one of those days when I was down and not up, and all I wanted to do was watch TV, so I just went to Walmart and picked up another one. But now that, as I said, dealing with this whole concept of average, I said, no. I'm no longer waking up, seeing where the day takes me. I'll tell the day where we're going. And you need to do the same thing. Number 3, let's analyze our environment. Jim Rohn, the late great speaker Jim Rohn, said it this way. He said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that. Who are you on the phone with? Who are you texting? Who are you sending funny memes and things like that to? Who do you spend your physical time with? And do those people have what you want? Do those people, or are those people on the way to get what you want to have? If not, you need some new people. Meaning that you should join an organization, a group, volunteer, something to be in the presence of those who must know something that you don't know. That now the deficit between those who are at this next level in you is so great that just like when we were teenagers and we felt like we needed to fit in, you'll need to fit in with them as well. You'll start asking questions. You'll start doing things differently in order to get yourself to that next level. And think about it, guys. Some of us, if we were to make from whatever you're making to a couple $100,000 a year, $300,000, $400,000 a year, would that be different for you? And it's my belief that for every American who's healthy and mentally healthy and sound with technology, the ability is there. And if you're pushing against that statement, then you're not ready for what I'm talking about. This is for the people who actually believe. This is for the people who are ready to leave average behind. That's no knock if you want to push back against it. It's just that whether you believe that you can or believe that you cannot, either way, you're right, according to Henry Ford. Jesus said, according to your faith, be it unto you. Solomon said, how does he say it? He said that whatsoever a man thinks, so is he. If that's what you think, have at it. But analyze your environment. Think about who you have around you. And number 4, get a mentor. Why make the mistakes that other people have already bumped their head and made? Why not just go talk to somebody who's already been there and trust that they have your best interest at heart so that they can help you to avoid some of the same mistakes that are going to take you longer to get to where you want to go. And don't hesitate to pay them. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Done it many times. It was worth it every time. The first mentor that I paid was a guy named James Malinchak. He ran a speakers conference, right, for people who wanted to get into the speaking business. I think I paid about, I want to say $800 for this course. It was a home study course. It was so long ago. It had cassette tapes and, all that. And about $800 sounded crazy back then. Probably about the year 2005, 2006, 2000, somewhere in there, right? However, I probably made easily off that $800 investment, easily 100, 120 grand. Speaking, teaching, on the road. Is it worth it? Yeah. Would I have been able to do it without him? Maybe. Saved me a lot of time, though, by having him as a mentor at the time. That's not an endorsement of him. I'm just saying those were the facts, right? That's what happened. And so give him his credit. And so right now, listen, I'm going to stop here. I'm really full of info and the desire for me personally to become what I know that I should be, and for you to come along with me. And so hopefully we can do that together. I personally believe it's time to leave average behind. We have just this one life. And as Andy Dufresne said in Shawshank Redemption, he said, hey, get busy living or get busy dying. And for those who are satisfied with average, whether you know it or not, you're busy dying, because it's a form of entropy, right? The things that we don't use, we lose. Some of the talents, physical ability, dexterity, talents, gifts, and everything that you had that you are no longer using, they are deteriorating. I'm asking you to resurrect them, right? Begin to slowly make them stronger again. Use them, utilize them so that you can leave average with me. And so if you are interested in joining a community of achievers, I am right now in the midst of creating one. In this community, I'm going to be dropping some jewels of encouragement, success hacks, interviews with people who I know that you would appreciate. For anybody who's looking to leave average, for me, I believe that I want to be above average in my physical fitness, my financial fitness, my spiritual, as well as my mental and emotional fitness, and obviously my relational fitness, right? And so those are the areas that we're going to focus on in this community. Like I said, we'll be doing interviews. We'll also be showcasing certain members of the community who'll be able to talk about the progress that they're making towards their vision. Not only that, it's not just me talking to you. It is a community where you can talk to everybody else, find out where other members are, maybe even do some meetups. This is new, this is beginning, but I am going to have the link pinned to the top of the chat. It is absolutely free right now. It won't always be that way, but it is absolutely free right now. Click the link, go to it, and I don't need any money from you at this time. All I need or I require is your desire. And so with that said, I leave you with a quote, a poem. There was a poem I used to listen to growing up from a certain preacher. He said, as the poem, that I'm going on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining every day. I'm still praying as I'm onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. That my heart has no desire to stay where doubts arise and fears dismay, though some may dwell where these are found. My prayer, my aim is higher ground. See you guys next time.